Hello, how are we all doing? How's it going? Thanks for coming. I want to talk to you about dogs today, but I want to specifically talk to you about how the choices you make can help your dog live longer. Now, obviously, that's a pretty big statement to make, and it's going to take some convincing on how we can actually make that happen. But first of all, I just want to talk to you about dogs in general. How many people here own a dog currently? Quite a few, yeah. How many of you have grown up with dogs? Any more? Yeah. And how many of you want a dog in future? Yeah. So I think virtually all of us here, obviously it's a dog talk, want a dog or have had in the past. And if you look at the amount of dogs we have in the UK, we can tell that dogs are a really, really important part of our lives. There's 8.5 million dogs in the UK. Nearly a quarter of households, 23% of households currently have a dog. 21% have more than one dog. So they're a really, really big part of our lives. I'll just draw your attention at this point to the fifth most popular pet, and we'll come back to that a bit later. So just a little bit of history about why dogs are important. Why are dogs and humans so integrated? Why are dogs such good friends of ours? They go back a long, long way. Obviously, there's cave paintings of man and dog together going back tens of thousands of years. Can anyone have a guess how long ago we domesticated dogs? Just shout out a number. 10,000, good guess. It used to be thought that it was 10,000 years ago. But actually, we've since found in the last 10 or 15 years more and more records of dogs going back up to 33,000 years ago. So it's a really, really long relationship that we've had with dogs, and a really, really important one. Originally, we had them for different tasks like herding and guarding. Nowadays, they're more for companionship. Sometimes we breed them for appearance as well, but a really long-standing relationship that we've had with dogs. And what we've done to dogs is quite remarkable in that time period because we've changed them from something unrecognizable to what their ancestor was. Their ancestor was a wolf-type ancestor, and we hear a lot of behaviorists and nutritionists sometimes these days talking about treat your dog as a wolf, it's a wolf, we need to treat it behaviorally like a wolf. Actually, if you look at the lineage of dogs, we've changed them so dramatically from wolves that they're no longer wolves at all. They behave differently, their nutritional needs are very different, and their habits are different. So we're doing them a bit of a disservice if we treat them as wolves. So, why am I here and what's my story? My story starts as a dog owner, first of all, before I ever became a vet. I was a dog owner from a very early age. This was my siblings and neighbors and cousins with our first dog, Sheba. And we got Sheba when I was 4 years old. So my first experience with dogs is from a very early age as a dog owner before I decided to become a vet. When I decided to become a vet was at a very early age as well, because I was always fascinated with nature and animals, and obviously growing up obsessed with dogs and any animals that I could come in contact with. Spent a lot of time pestering my mum and dad to bring me to the zoo. Can we go to the zoo again this Sunday? And I'm sure I drove them absolutely mad doing that, but there's the embarrassing childhood photos of baby Vet Sean. No fear of animals. My parents scratched their head and said, where the hell did we get this child that's running up to horses and running up to animals and totally obsessed with animals? So I spent a long time being determined I'm going to become a vet. It took a long time. Eventually I did become a vet, and I did what all vets have to do. There's the do you have to stick your... Yes, most vets have to stick their hand in places that aren't particularly pleasant, but that's my near graduation photo of becoming a vet. So what have I learned as a dog owner first, and what have I learned as a vet that I can pass on to you guys to be the best dog owners that you can be, and to hopefully help your dog through the choices you make to live longer, happier lives. Those choices can help them live longer, but also the choices can help them live happier lives, and that's what I really want to get through today, hopefully. So, going back to Sheba, I call Sheba the greatest dog that ever lived, and I really mean that, and I'm sure any dog owner in the audience probably says the same about their own dog. Am I right? Yeah. So everyone's dog is the greatest dog ever, but I really have to say, with years and years of dealing with thousands of dogs, that Sheba was a beautiful little dog. She definitely inspired my interest and passion for dogs and animals in general. She was a lovely little dog. So where did we get her from, and why is that relevant? Sheba came from my dad's friend's parents down the country in Ireland when I was about 4, as I say, and her mum was a prize-winning pedigree West Highland Terrier, and she came from a long line of prize-winning West Highland Terriers, and the mum's owner had great plans for her to produce more West Highland White Terriers, but then Sheba's dad came along, and we had a little accident, and she was the fallen woman of the village, disgraced. And Sheba's dad's lineage is something that we don't know much about, but it involved a lot of mongrels or crossbreeds and Jack Russells. We know that she's a mix, basically. And that's quite relevant because crossbreed dogs do have different characteristics to pedigree dogs that we'll talk about. The reason we got Sheba is my sister Sandra in the background. She'll kill me for talking about her now, but she was terrified of dogs as a young child. And my parents both grew up with dogs, and they wanted my sister to get over this fear, so they decided bringing a puppy into the household was going to be a good idea. So they got this tiny 8-week-old Sheba, brought her into the household. Sandra went and ran and locked herself in the bathroom at first, but we gradually, Sheba changed our family's lives. And talking about how you choose a puppy and why you choose a puppy, I think is really, really important for dog welfare and getting it right and having the best dog that you can and making them well adjusted. So what's everyone's reaction to this photo? Oh, I guess, like, it's National Puppy Day today, by the way. So it's quite relevant that we're here today. But everyone's instinctive reaction to puppies is generally, oh, they're so cute, I really want one. They look amazing. They appeal to our nurturing natures. They've got quite infant features that appeal to us on a subconscious level that we want to care for them. But I've just put this puppy picture up because it illustrates the importance of getting the right breed, choosing the right breed for you. And these are husky puppies, and as a vet, I worked with a Siberian Husky rescue organization, and I saw a lot of huskies that were coming back into the rescue shelter because people had bought them based on their appearance. They're an amazing looking dog, and they're a very, very characterful dog, but unfortunately they're not for everyone. A husky is designed to be pulling sleds. It's a working dog. It's designed to be out there running for hours and hours and miles every day. And unfortunately, that kind of dog just doesn't suit a lot of families that opt for them. So we do see a lot of rehoming going on. So my first tip really to get a happy, healthy dog for longer is really research your breed. If you're thinking about a breed because you like the look of them, just really do some research on their temperament and their needs, and that will be a good fit, hopefully, for a long and happy partnership. The second thing I want to talk about if you're choosing a puppy, this choice is really important. Where do you get your puppy from? So I did a quick Google search last night on buying a pug puppy, and at this point in time, we're dealing with a very kind of consumer culture where if you want something, you can go on the internet and you can get it today or tomorrow. There were hundreds and hundreds of ads online for pug puppies that you could go and get as soon as you wanted them for various prices and things. But there is an underlying welfare issue here with how people purchase puppies. They did some work on where dog owners got their dog in the first place, and 45% said they got them from a breeder. A breeder could be a very responsible breeder that's testing all their dogs for health and making sure their puppies are certified against certain inherited diseases. Or a breeder can be someone who bought a puppy and decided, you know what, I'm going to breed too because I might make a bit of money or because I want the dog to experience motherhood. All these reasons people breed, but we need to be careful where we get them from, that it's from a responsible breeder. 22% said they got their dog from friend or family, so that would suggest that what's happening to the huskies is happening quite a lot. Dogs are being passed around because sometimes people buy them and aren't capable of looking after them for their whole lives. This statistic for me is a bit of a sad one, that 14% of dogs, only 14%, are got from a rescue or shelter. And we are, I don't mean to put a downer on the talk, but we are in a bit of a crisis where a lot of dogs are lingering in rescue and in search of good homes. Really, really great dogs. And the last statistic I want to mention is that 5% said they met the seller at an agreed location. And what that kind of indicates is that these puppies are coming from fairly dubious sources, a lot of times from puppy farms, and they're meeting them at a location to hand over the dog, or they're meeting them in a house that's mocked up as a family home and might have the same number advertising several different breeds. These people that do puppy farming are quite clever, and they will sell lots of pedigree puppy dogs that have come from fairly horrible conditions. This is the only horrible slide I'm going to show you, but I think it's important to say that puppy farming is a big reality here. We've got puppies coming from Wales, from Ireland, where I'm from, shamefully, and from Eastern Europe being brought in. So really, really a big problem welfare-wise. So I would always get behind the adopt, don't shop movement. A lot of dogs in rescue, really great dogs, puppies as well, looking for homes, And I would encourage anyone to explore that route and see if it's for you, and work with your local shelter to see if you can adopt rather than buy and fuel this puppy trade that we have at the moment. It is a bit of a welfare crisis. The next thing I talk about with choosing a puppy is, do we go pedigree? I love pedigree dogs. My favorites are Hungarian Vizslas and Border Terriers. If anyone wants to know, we all have our favorite pedigree breeds because they're predictable. We love the breed. We might have had that breed growing up. We know their temperament. We know their attributes. And it's a great thing to have a pedigree in a way. But there is a little bit of a darker side to this in the fact we're breeding like for like all the time with pedigree dogs, and unfortunately a lot of them come with inherited problems that are typical of the breed or that are more common in that breed. So it's something just to think about if we're thinking about a new dog. Do we choose a pedigree, or do we choose a nice crossbreed or mixed breed like Sheba? All of the dogs I've had have been crossbreed, so I'm a little bit biased, but where I'm coming from really is, as a vet, it's quite disheartening to see pedigree dog problems coming in the door all the time. I can see on my waiting list there's a X breed coming in. I can almost imagine it's going to have XY condition. Do you know what I mean? So it's quite difficult to see that all the time with pedigree dogs. There's a lot that people are doing. Responsible breeders are improving pedigree dogs all the time. But I just thought it was interesting to look at genetic health problems. I'm often asked, are crossbreeds healthier than pure breeds? Do they have more problems or less problems? Do they live longer, which is what I want to talk to you about today. This was a quite interesting study where they looked at 24 different inherited disorders in dogs, and they looked at pure breeds versus mixed breeds and found out what is the actual difference. So you can see that in pure breeds, there were 10 different conditions that were far more common in the pure breeds than the mixed breeds. One condition that was more common in your mixed breeds, which is cruciate ligament rupture, but that might be a lifestyle factor. It could be that mixed breeds are exercising more, so they're damaging their ligaments in their knee. And then there was 13 conditions where there was no difference between pedigrees and mixed breeds. But it just goes to show you that we do breed in some of these problems by very nature of line breeding the same dog with the same dog all the time. Now, I just want to show you a little bit about the magnitude of difference. If we look at allergic dermatitis in Westies, so Sheba's mum was a West Highland Terrier, and West Highland Terriers, unfortunately, are the top dog for suffering from allergic skin disease. And it causes them a lot of problems with itching and painful infections and so on. You can see there that nearly 9% of West Highland White Terriers will suffer with allergic dermatitis versus just over 1% with mixed breeds. If you look at the giant breeds, Bernese Mountain Dog, Newfoundland, we're breeding in joint problems. So elbow dysplasia is a joint disease of young growing dogs, and it can cause painful conditions that need surgery, and it can cause arthritis at a very early age. But by virtue of us breeding them for a large size, having them to grow enormous very, very quickly, we put excess pressure on those joints and cause problems. So really, really big problems there compared to the mixed breeds. And then finally, intervertebral disc disease. How many people here have had problems with a disc in their back? Anyone? One? Yeah, one person. So it's quite rare in humans, but unfortunately this is something that we do breed into dogs accidentally by virtue of their shape and what we find desirable. So Dachshunds, your sausage dog, we breed them for a long back. That puts a lot of pressure on their spine. They're at a high risk. Over 35% will suffer from intervertebral disc disease to some degree and possibly need surgery and be quite painful. So I think when choosing your puppy, I doubt that people that are choosing a Dachshund as a puppy are going, 1 in 3 of this litter I'm choosing from might need surgery in the future. So it's just something to be aware of, and it's something that we need to work with breeders to improve. I'm going to get off the sad stuff and the really kind of welfare stuff and talk about being a new puppy parent. I mean, that's a joyful experience as any. A good few of us here have experienced it. One of the top tips I can talk about getting your puppy off to the best start in life is socialization. So we've probably all heard of socializing. Some people get it really, really right. Some people maybe leave out a few important things. But I call socialization puppy bingo. You need to have a list of different scenarios that you're going to expose your puppy to, and that way the puppy is going to be very content and confident experiencing those things in later life. There's a very critical window in a puppy's life called the socialization window. It lasts up until about 16 to 18 weeks of age, and that's the time where anything they encounter they'll be happy with and confident with later on. You can still teach an old dog new tricks, and you can get them used to certain things. If you miss that window, that's not a problem. But puppy socialization, really fun time in a dog ownership journey, and something everyone should get on board with. So that leads us into kind of training and behavior. What kind of choices do we make there that improve our dogs' lives, improve our lives, and hopefully extend our dogs' lives? Going back to what I said at the start, the way we've bred dogs from a wolf ancestor, there's a lot of behavior advice, old school behavioral advice, that says your dog is a wolf, treat them like a wolf. Wolves live in packs, and they form a dominance hierarchy, and you need to be the alpha male or the alpha dog. Alpha training, dominance training, actually does a big disservice to our dogs. It's not a good way to foster a great relationship with your dog. The reason for that is dominance theory came from studying wolves in captivity. And in the wild, wolves are very, very peaceful family animals, and they live in very harmonious family groups until some new male comes in or pack splits up. But looking at them in captivity, they are forced into a very small area in unrelated groups, and there's a lot of conflict there. So what we learned about or thought we knew about dog behavior is actually very wrong. They're not wolves, and even the wolves we studied, we got it wrong because we put them in artificial surroundings. There's a lot of trainers, I won't name names, but you can kind of figure it out yourself. A lot of trainers on YouTube and with television series that are still promoting the alpha dog myth and the dominance theory myth. That has been debunked. It's far, far better to treat dogs and train dogs in a more positive way. And one of my biggest regrets as a dog owner, as a child growing up, where it was very traditional how we kept our dogs, was that I didn't use the right way with Sheba. We did train her through some kind of negative reinforcement and told her off, and things like that. Far better to use positive reinforcement and reward as a way to train your dog and build a much better bond with them. So the trainer that I love to quote, and she's really, really good, is Victoria Stilwell. I hope she doesn't mind me stealing her graphic here. But she talks about the 4 pillars of positive training being positive reinforcement, avoid intimidation or physical punishment or fear. That's really, really important for your dog and you to have a good bond. Understand that misconception of dominance theory. There's loads of information out there to read about it. And learn about the canine experience from the dog's point of view. So I've talked about the bond that we've had for centuries, thousands of years with dogs, and part of the similarity there is how we communicate, but it's also part of the difference. So we need to understand that dogs are not humans, and some of the behavior problems we get are by treating them too much like humans and trying to get them to understand us on a human level. If we understand them on a dog level, then we'll do much better for them. So I want to show you what can be achieved with positive reinforcement and reward-based training. This is another awe moment. I don't currently have a dog, and that's something I want to change pretty soon, but I do have some other pets, and I spent an hour with them the other evening, and I was going to show you a little video of what I achieved in just an hour of clicker training with a food-based reward. Okay, so I'm a bit of a weirdo. I think we can all agree. But it just shows you that if you spend some time relating to animals and understanding their behavior and how they learn, you can really, really achieve a lot. Hopefully I'll get a dog soon and come back with better tricks next year. So, talking about health then, what kind of choices do we make with health? And important in this is choosing the right vet. You can choose the right dog, but you can also choose the right vet. So part of my role as a vet in my last practice was we used to do an annual dog show on the green, and it was a really, really good celebration of getting out of the clinic with the kind of serious stuff that goes on there and really celebrating the joy of dog ownership. And this little guy on the left really reminded me of myself because he had this amazing relationship with this big, massive Russian terrier, and he won first place, best in show at our fun village dog show. The lady on the right was one of my favorite clients and favorite dogs. I know I shouldn't have favorites, but they were my favorites. The dog's name was Ella, and this is the first time I met her. She won the best golden oldie category in the dog show. And I looked after her for several years after this show, and unfortunately I also put her to sleep when she got ill and her owner was distraught. But I got a beautiful message from the owner of thanks and a card, and I still see her around to this day, and we have a great bond. And what I'm saying in this is build a relationship with your vet. Your vet is your partner in crime when it comes to your dog's health. Vets as a profession do get some stick on dog forums and online, and I would say that most vets, nearly every vet I know at least, got into it because they love animals and they want to nurture animals and make sure their welfare is good. So build a good relationship with your vets. The kind of things on health, which I'll touch on in brief, one of the big topics that we kind of talk about, and it's very confusing for owners to know what to do best, is should I spay or neuter my pet? There's a lot of mixed information out there. Should I spay or neuter in the first place? What are the pros and cons? When is the best time to spay and neuter? I think broadly, it's a good idea if you don't want to breed from your pet that you do spay or neuter your pet. Number one, we do have a big overpopulation problem. So the accidental litters like Sheba came from are actually a big problem because it just adds to the number of dogs that are looking for homes. The other thing is behavior-wise, a lot of dogs are happier if we take that away from them, that this kind of sexual drive and hormonal drive, because it can lead to a lot of frustration behaviors. And if they're not for breeding and they don't have any outlet for that, those hormonal behaviors, then it can lead to behavior problems. So often they're a happier dog if they're spayed or neutered. The other thing is it reduces roaming. A lot of dogs that I've seen with terrible injuries from roaming. And the big thing is it lowers a lot of health problems, especially cancers. The sad part of Sheba's story is, again, following traditional advice, we decided not to, or my parents decided not to spay Sheba because they said, let's leave her natural. And that was just the attitude at the time. And unfortunately, Sheba did develop breast cancer and died from that in later life at age 14. A later dog that we got, Suki, we did spay her and she went on to 17. And I know that's only two examples, but it is really unfortunate when dogs develop preventable disease because they weren't spayed or neutered. So we can increase lifespan by spaying and neutering. The other big thing I'd urge you all to just be vigilant about if you're dog owners is parasites. And fleas obviously can be an annoyance, but there's other parasites that can be much more sinister. Ticks carry a lot of diseases that we want to prevent. And the big one you've probably all heard of, I hope you've all heard of, is lungworm. Now, the range of parasite products out there is very, very big and confusing, so it's worth checking in with your vet that your dog is covered against ticks and lungworm at least. Looking at feeding. Feeding is really, really important. We all know the importance of nutrition. Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. So what we put in, we get out. And we say in veterinary medicine and human medicine that food is the first medicine. If we feed the body right, hopefully that will end up in good health. And there's been countless studies done on dog lifespan around nutrition and feeding a good diet. And some of them have shown that a good diet can actually extend your dog's lifespan by several years. And what we mean by a good diet, what I mean by a good diet, and what those studies have identified are three things. The first thing, when we're looking at ingredients, this is Bear, you saw him at the start as well, as a little pup. The first thing is high quality ingredients. So whether you're dealing with homemade food or raw food or dried kibble or wet food or any food you feed, the raw ingredients are really, really important that they're high quality. That's the number one for a good diet. The second thing is that we tailor that diet to the dog's individual needs. Every dog is an individual. And for me, the frustration as a vet in clinic was trying to find the off-the-shelf product that fits that dog with multiple needs, it's very difficult to say, right, well, this need is a priority over this need. This is a dog with a health condition and needs to lose weight. I don't know what to feed. And that's very confusing because there's so many things out there. So tailoring the diet to the dog's individual lifestyle and health needs. The third thing is portion control. How much we feed is very, very important. And I'm sorry to use product placement here, but it's very difficult to illustrate portion control without it. But what we do at Tails is we give you the exact calories your dog needs and tell you how much to feed to keep them in good condition. It's been shown that keeping them in an ideal body condition will help them live longer. Obesity in dogs is probably the biggest health issue in dogs in the UK right now. We've all seen very large dogs. We've all seen dogs that are slightly overweight. Obesity and being overweight does lead to lots of chronic health conditions in dogs, and it does influence quality of life in later years as well. And it will limit a dog's lifespan because if a dog doesn't have quality of life because its mobility is affected by its weight, then we're sometimes in a position as vets where we're advocating putting them to sleep on welfare grounds because they can't stand up anymore. Things like that. So obesity really, really is a big thing that we can control, and it is confusing, but we can control it quite well. They did some work on looking at vets and dog owners and seeing what were the attitudes and what were the levels of this problem. And 77% of vets in 2014 believed pet obesity was on the rise, whereas 63% of pet owners thought that their pet was the correct weight. So there's a perception issue there related to, if we go back, if we look at the Labradors on the bottom, we all see Labradors, and a lot of the Labradors we see are a little bit overweight, so that becomes normal. Labradors are a tricky one because anyone who's owned a Labrador knows that they are hungry. And some of them have just been found to have a gene that doesn't control the hunger gene very well, so they have a constant appetite. But we see Labradors all the time that are a bit over-conditioned, and that can lead to problems. The statistic from 2014 was that 45% of the UK's dogs are overweight. 2 years ago, the updated one was 49%. So we're talking half of our dogs, unfortunately, are overweight. So it is something that we need to try and get back in control. Older dogs, we're moving on through Sheba's life and how that went, and your own dogs. In older age, it's really more important that we check them regularly and we seek our vet's advice. Sheba grew to the ripe old age of 14, as I said, and she was a great dog until the very end. But one of the things that we did that really improved her quality of life when she was about 11 or 12, was we brought in a second dog. And we got Suki, I told my parents I got Suki from an abandoned waste ground where she was dumped, but that's a lie. I'm going to share with you, I actually got her from my cousin's neighbor who had an accidental litter of puppies. My parents only found that out a few years ago. But Suki really enriched our lives and enriched Sheba's life. It gave her a new lease of life, and it was really, really good for Sheba. She was like a puppy again. So I would encourage you, if you have the resources, to think about a second dog, especially if you have an older dog and you're thinking eventually you'll be a dog owner again when that one passes away. It's really beneficial to stage that where you have two dogs at once, and it will enrich the older dog's life in most cases. The other things with senior care are looking after their joints. I hear a lot, oh, my dog's stiff, but he's not in pain. Oftentimes, if a dog's stiff and crotchety and walking around like an old dog or finding it hard to get up, that is a sign of discomfort and pain, and there's great drugs and very safe drugs that we can give them to improve their quality of life, and nutritional supplements as well that we can include in their food or use as supplements to take care of their joints. We need to look after their teeth. Dental health is a big problem in older dogs. If your dog's breath is really whiffy, it might be time to look at getting a dental and cleaning that up for the later years, because untreated dental disease can lead to health problems with organs and things like that. Keeping their weight under control, bringing them for your annual health check with the vet, very good idea to pick up on problems early, because the earlier we pick up on them, the better we can treat them. And then finally, older dogs will often get quieter, slower, they might sleep a lot, but sleeping a lot more than usual can be a sign that there's something wrong as well. Our dogs are not very good at telling us when there's something wrong, so do pay attention to those habits. So, to summarize, what have I learned as a dog owner and as a vet? The choices that we make can help our dog live longer and can help our dog be happier, okay? And I want a happy dog hopefully means a happy owner. My advice for future dog owners, a few of you have said you want to get a dog, is just to summarize, think about the breed you're going to get. That's really, really important, that it's going to be a good fit for life. Think about where you get your dog from, research a responsible breeder, and go and see puppy with mum before you bring them home. That's a really, really important thing so that you avoid falling into the puppy farm trap. And finally, consider a crossbreed. There's a lot to be said for a crossbreed, and there's a lot to be said for a rescue dog. Current dog owners, what you can do, just to summarize, positive reinforcement all the way. If you spend a little bit of time teaching your old dog new tricks, or your new dog some tricks using positive reward-based training, you're really going to develop the bond that you have there. Research and invest in good nutrition, because that will help your dog live longer. And most of all, enjoy your dog as well. And then for everyone, dog owner or non-dog owners alike, if you're talking to people about getting a dog, really get behind the adopt, don't shop message, because there's a lot of dogs out there that really need our help. Thank you.